starting to record, folks. Thank you. I see it popping up. So good morning. Walter has already joined us and said some words. So it's good to see you. And Walter was indicating, so that happened before the recording, that he was hoping that eventually in 2022 we can move to a hybrid format so that we can meet in the building with some people participating online. But I will tell people that don't work for the county that we've had a little bit of a struggle doing hybrid meetings. It's more complex than people realize to have some people in the room and some people at home. But I'm sure we're working.
Chairman, if I could just jump in on that. I know we've traditionally used the community room. We are looking at the IT capabilities in there, and I know the sound, frankly, without having anything hybrid online, the sound sometimes has been a challenge in that room. So we are looking at that. I have seen some examples where it works pretty well, but sometimes it requires a little different equipment. So
yeah, absolutely. Certainly, as long as the people who aren't with the county, it's not something it's something we're looking into. It's more complex, but it's an opportunity to learn. So I think it's really interesting how we're changing because of COVID. There's silver linings there to the dark cloud, and this is one of them, increasing our ability to reach out to the community through new solutions. So I'd like to, did you want to talk about the structure, or did you want to put that later? Because on the agenda, Walter, they're talking about the supervisor structure, talking about the structure. It says 100 mil TAC structure. Did you want to comment on that now, or did you want to do that at the close of the meeting?
Yeah, let's wait until we get through it. I think there's, I did want to get, frankly, a lot of that I want to hear from some of our attendees and others that, because I want to make sure this is really serving folks that are following this and care about it.
Okay, terrific. So we're going to, if we have the people on for the police briefing, do we have them on yet? Yes? You must be muted.
I think Scott Colwell.
I'm covering for Captain Lee. He's sick. Was he going to brief you on something? He didn't let me know. He just asked me to jump on the meeting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I don't see anybody on from Ruston District Station.
Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. Do you want me to put them on later in the agenda to start with?
Thank you, Catherine. That's perfect.
Yeah, I know Tom. Yeah, we'll do that because I know Tom has to leave us sometime midway through. Tom, are you available and ready for your presentation? Fairfax County DOT.
Yes.
It's going to be Chris.
We are ready.
We're ready.
I got the
mute button. Go ahead, please.
We are ready. Good morning. I'm Chris Wells. I'm the program manager for the county, Fairfax County.
Hey, Chris, it's Jose. I see the triangle where you may be having bandwidth issues, so you may want to turn off your video.
Jose, I spoke too soon about all this working great.
You weren't here 15 minutes before the meeting.
I know I did not follow directions.
This is not.
Well, before
Chris, we are having trouble hearing you.
Yeah. Jose, maybe what would help while Chris sees if the technical stuff on his side.
That's WebEx.
Yes, Supervisor.
Maybe put up the agenda on the screen and oh man, I hate to lose Chris out into the ether, but
he was on the good stuff right now.
I put my laptop.
Now we can.
I put my laptop 10 inches in the air. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Gotta
still
write that
seeing
one down, Chris. Thank you.
little triangles. So I got my camera turned off. Hopefully you can hear me, but then I'm going to share my screen. So let's see how that goes.
Supervisor, did you want me to take off the agenda and give Chris presenter rights again?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, Chris, you should be able to present your content now.
See it? Okay. Can you see it? Can you see my?
We can see it.
doc-
Yes,
Yep.
thank you, Chris.
Okay,
We can see it.
Great. So I sent this to Shamali yesterday, and you guys can post it or distribute it. This is the Hunter Mill version of the semi-annual report to the board on transportation. And so I'll just go through quickly. I know we have a lot on the agenda today, so we don't have a lot of highlights. And Steve Knutson's with us to talk about traffic calming. But I'll just quickly do some highlights from this document. And then if anyone has any questions on any specific projects, Tom and I can answer. So here in front of you, the long-awaited Beulah Road Walkway Phase 3, which is the section along Clark's Crossing, has been under construction. And so that is definitely something the community has been waiting for a long time. Next one is on page 6. Monroe Street from Monroe Manor Drive to Dwight Street is a missing link that serves the Innovation Metro Station. That's been under construction as well for a while. So that's probably nearing completion. Then on page 9, the Reston Parkway Dulles Toll Road ramps. We have both the westbound ramp and the eastbound ramp. Those were crosswalk projects, including a signalized crosswalk across Reston Parkway at the ramp. So those are have been completed since we last met. Then on page 11, South Lakes' did I miss it? Yeah. The different segments of South Lakes between Greenskeeper's Court and Sunrise Valley. So that's Greenkeeper's Court to Soapstone, Whisperwood Glen to Ridge Heights, Harbor Court to Twin Branches. That's completes the corridor, so to speak, along, in particular, the area that feeds South Lakes High School of Missing Links. Then on page 13, the project that's not in construction, but it's one of interest to the community is the Town Center Underpass between Sunset Hills and Sunrise Valley. The final feasibility report was received from Vdot end of last year on that. And so that's a milestone for that project to move forward. And then lastly, on page 14, the Wheelie Avenue WO&D Bridge. That construction, the utility relocation has been ongoing, but the actual construction of that project is scheduled to begin this April. So that is, of course, a year-long or more construction effort, but that's, again, a major project long awaited by the community. So with that, I will take any questions quickly on projects.
Hey, Chris, there's a couple hands. I see Mark Malcolm and also Bruce Wright for now. Mark
Okay.
Malcolm.
Mark Malcolm, just asking about the cycle track for Sunrise Valley Drive from Fairfax County Parkway toward Innovation Station. When are you going to present on that again?
Sure. So that's a project that we probably this summer, maybe by our next meeting or the second meeting after that, would be ready to bring back to the community. Oh, see, I lifted up my laptop. Now my head's cut off. We are in a task order right now with a consultant where we are doing the drainage design, the preliminary drainage design, and the sidewalk analysis. We'd originally been considering whether to just build inside the existing sidewalks, but we're doing an analysis now to see if it makes more sense to also make the sidewalks a consistent width for the 3.5 miles of the project. So it's not a light consideration, but something that is important to the community for consistency in cross sections. So that work is just kicking off now. We actually briefed Supervisor Alcorn and Supervisor Faust within the past month on that. And then as that consultant delivers that work, we should have something for this group and really actually for a public, a citizens information meeting on the actual project itself as we do. I would say early summer, maybe late spring, but late spring, early summer.
Thanks kindly on that. I assume with that would have put the project regarding curb ramps, crosswalks, even though you have a construction package on it, what I'm referring to is Monroe Street and Sunrise Valley Drive, that intersection. Why go forward with that project for its relative cost? Its convenience on that when it will be impacted by this. That's TPP 19013, the HSAM's ID 13, one of the projects. Anyway, thanks.
Sure. Yeah, that's always one of the challenges with capital projects. With if things get overtaken by events, and do you get useful life out of something that you're doing? So what's currently planned for Monroe and Sunrise is really just minor improvements to the crosswalks themselves to serve the opening of the Silver Line. And so the intent of the Monroe Missing Link project and the previous Monroe segment between Fox Mill and Sunrise and the crosswalks at Sunrise were to improve all the infrastructure leading up to, within the last mile, so to speak, of the metro station. The Sunrise Valley Cycle Track project is still a few years away. So that's still, 3 to 5 years away. So the intent would be that we get, those 3 to 5 years of useful life out of what we're doing.
That's very fair, and I thank you very much. I use that particular intersection almost every single day on foot or other means. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
So Chris, we do have some additional hands. I know Bruce was next, but then we have Jeffrey Anderson and then Lynn Brown.
Okay.
Bruce?
Hi. Hey, Chris.
Morning.
Quick question about Reston Parkway at Dulles Toll Road. FAB, I'm with the Fairfax Alliance for Better Bicycling. FAB has met with Vdot on two issues that have been a problem over the years. One issue has been the lack of detours for pedestrian and bike projects. And the detour, there was no detour much of the time for that project. And I complained to Vdot, complained to the work crew, which is not good because, they're not the ones who make the plans. There was a county person out there. I complained to that person. He said, yeah, we'll be sure and get a detour. And it didn't happen. So in the future, hopefully you can tell your crews they've got to have a detour because the only alternative there is to go about 3 miles either east or west to the next bridge. It's a critical connection to the town center and it wasn't done right. The other issue is the idea of steep-sided curbs at curb ramps, and we've met with VDOT. They agreed to try not to use those. They were coming up with a modified slope design, and yet we saw those happening there. And so apparently it's because it's a county project and not a VDOT, although VDOT's been doing these as well. So that's another issue I just wanted to point out, that hopefully those can be avoided in the future because those steep-sided curb ramps will clip, cyclists can easily clip a pedal or someone on a wheelchair or whatever. And I know you and the staff know it's an issue, but maybe the designers don't, but hopefully that can be fixed in the future as well. Thanks.
Sure. We were made aware of those lack of detour. There were maintenance of traffic plans in the construction plans, and for some reason those were not followed. So that is an internal issue that we're trying to work out with DPW's construction folks so that it doesn't happen in the future. So that's certainly fair criticism. The ramps, it's probably just an issue of the age of that project. You know, things that are going to construction today were designed, you know, 4 years ago. And there should not be a difference between county projects and VDOT projects. We are all trying to make sure that the ramps are done correctly, and ramps are something that my staff focuses on quite a lot in all of our design plans. So I'm not making an excuse. It's just probably that project was designed before that scrutiny today.
All right, thanks, Chris.
And Chris, this is Tom Bachami. Bruce, obviously, if you see something that you don't think is right, and both Chris and I support maintenance of traffic for pedestrian bicyclists when these projects are underway, please let us know. I mean, several people have let us know that there were issues with projects, and if we know about it, we can get involved and try and resolve them. Unfortunately, talking to the project manager on the site is probably not going to help you get your issue resolved.
Yeah, I understand.
So let us know that there's a problem that you may see it before we do. So let us know and we'll follow up. In this case, there was a maintenance of traffic plan, and if they didn't follow it, then it's our job to get on top of that and make sure that it happens.
Well,
We can't do it if we don't know.
I'll take this opportunity to let you know that at the corner of Reston Parkway and Sunrise Valley Drive, the same situation is occurring. There's a work being done at that corner on the northwest corner. There was a detour that went through the Haley Rise area, but that can't happen because that corner is totally blocked, and people will be walking in the road because they need to get through there. So just want to let you know about that. One quick item on the WNOD bridge. Any idea where the detour is going to happen for that?
The detour will be on Sunset Hills Road, most likely, but I think we're probably 6 months away from finalizing that.
Okay.
But we'll make sure that there is a detour, and my guess is it will be on Sunset Hills Road, Chris, unless you know anything different.
It certainly takes you to the signal. It detours to the signal. I don't remember exactly how it does that detour. It may, like Tom said, it may be along Sunset.
Well, I hope at the signal, the pedestrian signal lasts for longer than like the 3 or 4 seconds that currently is the part of the walk signal, because people are going to go through there, and we can't go through legally if it says don't walk. So just a heads up on that. Thanks.
Okay.
Hey, Bruce, one other detour issue, the Vesper Trail, different part of the district. Dominion is going to be undergrounding utility lines there in the coming years. And there was not a detour plan in place that they knew about or they had. So we're pushing them to make sure that that Vesper Trail does not close for the 8 or 10 months, however long it's going to take for them to do the undergrounding project. So
That's great, thank you, because that is another critical connection up into Tyson's. Thanks.
Sorry, I was muted. So we had Jeffrey Anderson and then Len Brown.
Hey, good morning. It's Jeff. Chris, how are you?
Hey, Jeff.
I'm not representing Fab. I'm actually coming over from the Wolf Trap PTA Parents Group because some of those guys couldn't make it. But first, thank you for the update on the Clark's Crossing Trail. I did see that, and it looks great. I think that'll finally complete that whole segment, minus the church area. That looks great. But a question, I know later there's an item about the wolf trap safety, but do you have an update just on the overall construction at Wolf Trap, or is that going to be discussed later?
In the report, it says November of 22. So that should be when that's scheduled. And no, I don't have anything else on that project.
Okay, because I know there was some concern still about like there wasn't going to be an RFD, or is that part of that discussion later, or is that still not being included in the plan?
You cut out for a minute. Did you say rapid flash beacon?
Yeah, there was some concern that that was not going to be there, and then I know it came up again when we had the incident with the parent and the truck. Is that still off the plate, off the table?
I believe it is not included because it doesn't meet VDOT's criteria for those. I think when we put in the grant, we were trying to maintain the flexibility if it would be applicable, but my recollection is, and I'll check on this in case I'm wrong, was that it doesn't meet the VDOT criteria for
Okay.
the volume and the width of the road.
Well,
So-
the width of it is it's pretty wide. So maybe it's not, maybe it's too wide.
But
Just-
our project is narrowing it. So
Yeah.
that's, the project narrows it to either a 2-lane or a 3-lane turn lane cross section. So VDOT's criteria is based on the width of the road and the daily traffic volumes.
Okay.
But I'll check.
So the parents will continue to push for that, everyone on this call, just so you know. So even though all the other stuff is great, I think they will continue to push for that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Lynn Brown is next.
Thanks, Jose. Morning, everybody. I wanted to raise again the South Side sidewalk on Sunrise Valley Drive between Monroe Street and Fairfax County Parkway. The sidewalk is now verging on unusable for large chunks of the time because utility permits are given 4 or 5 times a year. They come along, they dig up all the sidewalk, they break all the pavers, they repair nothing, they leave potholes, they leave unused utility cabinets. So the sidewalk is a mess. It floods in the rain, it's in the shade, it takes a long time to dry out. In the dark, you're going to break your neck if you use it. And given we're now hearing that the cycle trail isn't going to be done for 3 to 4 years, exactly when is this sidewalk going to be repaired and be usable? Because our trails for my community come out on that sidewalk and there are no crossing points at those trails to be able to use the other sidewalk. So, you know, I'd like it to be repaired sometime soon.
So that sounds like a VDOT permit issue, that any work within the VDOT right of way is done under permit, and similar to what Tom said about maintenance of traffic concerns, those need to be brought to VDOT's attention. Any permittee is required to do repairs to, you know, anything that they damage in their whatever process they're doing, utility process in this case. So I know, I think Steve Welch is on this morning. Maybe Steve could pass that on to VDOT Permits. Of course, if there's been multiple, there's a timeliness to making sure that permittees are held accountable, because if there's been multiple permits, then it gets to be a little challenging to figure out who did the damage and who's responsible.
Hey, Chris, I'm here, and I will circle back to get the information about the location and touch base with our permits group to find out what's happening. Thanks.
Thank you and good luck, because it's these 2 years of permits that are being granted at about, I would say, 10 to 12 of them.
And you said 10 to 12 different projects through there in 2 years?
Yeah, because many of the cable companies' utilities run along there. So
Yes.
sometimes they come, they spend a month digging it all up, and then 2 weeks later, another company comes and digs it all up again, and then a third company comes and does it all again. So there's no coordination of permits. And clearly there are a lot of utility boxes now above ground that are not used because they've been replaced with in-ground utility boxes.
Steve, if I could ask, Steve, when you look into that, could you maybe talk with somebody in permitting if there's a better way in anticipation of additional cable that needs to run through there? I don't know if there needs to be a more coordinated project.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, but I will check into it. And one of the unfortunate things that happens sometimes is one utility schedules and we permit them to do the work, and either they're completed or almost completed, and we had no idea that some other utility company has a project, and then all of a sudden they apply to do a project. And it would be nice if we were aware that 3 or 4 were coming eventually, so that it could all be done at one time. Typically, 2, we will try in those situations to have a sizable conduit box put through an entire area, so you can simply add multiple lines without disrupting the above ground and sidewalk and whatever the trail, whatever the situation may be. So yeah, I'll follow up with that. So appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve. I know in Tyson's, we're moving to that, with basically oversizing the underground.
Exactly.
boxes there. And so, yeah, thank you. And I also point out there's some ridiculous percentage of the world's internet traffic that goes through there. So it doesn't surprise me that they're, so sorry about that, Lynn, but let's see.
Thank you.
Chris, I think Mark Malcolm had an additional question, but maybe it's a previous hand. I'm guessing it was a previous hand.
Oh, I apologize. I left my hand up, but I'll speak to that. What Lynn has spoken to, the idea of conduit is absolutely essential eventually and needs to be actually considered with the cycle track project. The thing is, there's probably close to a minimum of 8 feet in diameter when you take the multiple conduit companies, and no joke on the amount of fiber optic cable that is in the street. We've lived here for over 26 years, watched this multiple times, and then when they do minor adjustments of additional cable going in or replacement, we've had a couple of gas lines get cut with accidents that have occurred. It has been absolutely an amazing thing along that stretch of Sunrise Valley. Anyway, Supervisor Alcorn's comments were dead on. Wasn't planning to say anything beyond that, but thank you.
I think those are all the hands up, Catherine.
Okay, Chris, yes. Chris, did you have anything else that you were presenting on this morning?
Not that I know of.
Okay, then. And Tom, you're along for the ride, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, good to see your face. We're going to move on to Steve on behalf of Vdot. Morning, Steve.
Good morning. If I could share screen, I think you just gave that to me here, so I'm going to pull that up if you'd give me one moment. Can my screen be seen thus far?
Yeah, we can see the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it into slideshow mode. There we go.
Yep, we can see it, Steve.
All right. So what I was asked to speak to today was about the Vdot Nova District snow update, Route 7 corridor improvement project, and Hunter Mill Road and Colvin Road Bridge replacement. Give me 1 second here. So yeah, already beginning since January 2nd, our crews have mobilized 7 times for the winter events, and here it is, only the 26th, 27th. And of course, we're getting ready to do so again. The challenge, of course, for us has been these back-to-back storms. I mean, in between every event, our trucks, plows, equipment, salt, sand, brine facilities, etc., have to be maintained and repaired and reloaded. We have tractor trailers full of salt, sand coming in between the events. So our guys are working 12-hour shifts, 24/7 to handle these back-to-back storms. So we're getting a doozy this year so far, kicking off the beginning of the year. Overall, though, in Northern Virginia, I think I've talked about this a little bit before, but we have over 14,000 lane miles, roughly 2,000 bridges, 24 commuter lots, and 1,400 signalized intersections to plow. And we give a lot of priority to the bridges, ramps, commuter lots, signalized intersections, hot spots. Also, we have to give priority to the interstates, the high volume primary and secondary roads, and then the major neighborhood roads first, the main pass through the neighborhood. And then we get back to doing the smaller streets, the neighborhood streets, cul-de-sacs, what have you. One thing that we, try to keep reminding that we're doing the best we can. We literally, in the big storm that we had of January 2nd, where we have such a big problem down in Fredericksburg, with a storm like that, we had over 4,000 pieces of equipment between plows and trucks and and that's an enormous amount of people involved just in Northern Virginia district. But the way we work is as the storm ends typically, and this is not referring to the January 2nd storm, but typically that was kind of an anomaly the way that one happened. But we start, our goal is, and commitment is that if it's a 2 to 4 inch storm, we'll have the roads clear in 24 hours, 4 to 6 inches in 48 hours, and 6 inches and above, we'll have everything cleared within 72 hours. And typically we don't tell our plow pushers to start going until 2 inches accumulates. Now that's not having to do with brining. If we're able to do brining, brining is a mixture of salt and water, 70% water. We can only do that when it's going to be dry before the storm. In other words, if it's a chance of rain or what have you, we can't do it. It just washes it away, but that does help to start melting the snow and help us make the roads clear more easily. The other thing is that I have to try to remind everybody, we had a lot of complaints the last time. It was a big storm, but we can commit that we provide one pass-through in neighborhoods. And we can't get to those until we can get done with making sure the interstates and high volume primaries and secondaries are done. We do give a major pass through on the main road going through a subdivision, but getting to every street takes a bit longer. In the last case, we were actually calling some of the neighborhood plows to go back out to help out in problem areas again, because that storm kept going. But with 4,000 pieces of equipment and a lot of work to do, and that one storm alone, we ended up sending some of our crews from the Loudon areas because they got less snow down to help out in Fredericksburg. So since then, we've had multiple various mobilizations. We have a smaller storm, it's a skeleton crews of our maintenance, and then we up it from there depending upon what the National Weather Service forecasts are predicting. And we work very closely with them, the state police and others in the to prepare for these storms. And in every storm, we start preparing as much as 24 hours in advance with loading equipment, getting our plans together, figuring out, everything that has to be done. And it's a tough job for the guys that are doing it, literally 12-hour shifts. The last one, we had people working 18, 20 hours through the night and into the next day. 2 locations, we did have our salt and sand equipment broke down, and we had to have people come and help fix those, but that didn't stop us from getting our job done. Just as a bit of information, may have seen this before, but this is a link to the NOVA fact sheet, as well as there's a site for Vdot plows. If everybody may be familiar with that, you can see where the plows are actively moving. There's some delay in updates about every 2 minutes or so. You can also look on our cameras on the major roads, on the 511virginia.gov for the traffic conditions on several of the major roads. And then finally, of course, you can call the number shown above at 800 for a road, or in my view, the easiest way to do it is to go on to my.vdot.virginia.gov, because that is a platform that you can check off the questions and challenges that you have right in. It goes to a central placing, and then it gets distributed to whatever group it needs to be distributed to. So that's kind of just a big summary on where we are with the storm. We're probably getting ready for another one, potentially coming this weekend. We don't know the details. I should say the National Weather Service doesn't quite know how it's going to hit us yet, whether it's drifting off more to the east and coastal side, but we'll see and be prepared for that one. The next thing was to update everyone on the Route 7 corridor improvement project. It remains on schedule for completion in July 2024. That's the contractual completion date also. The construction activities along Route 7 will continue through the winter, and we will have additional traffic shifts, of course, as the project progresses. And we do send out notices about that. And one of the current lane shifts that's going on is along eastbound Route 7 with temporary road closures and detours at Trap Way. And beginning just this week, we have the same thing happening at Stokely Way. And there's been multiple media venues put out about those changes. And if you want to get more information just about the project in general, you can go to the Connect Route 7.org website, and that'll take you about through everything you want to know about the Route 7 project. But you can also go on the constant contact link that we show here, and it gives real-time information, most of the time almost weekly, if not even twice a week, about things that are happening on the corridor as the project progresses. So the last one was the Hunter Mill Road over Colvin Run Bridge replacement project. We kicked that off last August of 2021. The utility relocations are finally nearly complete despite a 3-month delay in obtaining mainly water lines because there was significant supply chain issues with the manufacturers to supply those lines to the contractor, to the utility contractors, and that held up some work. But our contractor assures us they can still meet the date despite that happening. We're into phase 1 construction, which is to construct the northbound lane of the new bridge alongside of the existing bridge. And we'll be complete with that new lane and new bridge on the northbound lane in early February next month. At that point, we'll go into phase 2 of construction, and that's constructing the southbound lane of the new bridge. And what we'll be doing is shifting the traffic over onto the newly built northbound lane with alternating flagging movements across that, so that we can not only build the new southbound lane, but also work to deconstruct the existing bridge and do the grading work around that side in that area. So like I said at the top, the project does remain on schedule for completion in this late fall 2022, and all is going well despite the weather. We're getting it done. So, and again, you can go onto the link here, and I will be providing a PDF of this to Shamali afterwards so that she can send that out. And these are hyperlinks so that you can click on them and look up any information that you may have. So for now, that's what I had. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know.
Are there any hands up? Jose?
Yeah, Catherine, we do have 2 hands, but I did get a message through the chat through the previous item from Rick Hamilton. He had a question for Tom Bashadney or Steve Welch about some accidents at Sunrise Valley and Hitchcock. So I'm happy to unmute Rick if you wanted to provide some additional comments. Rick?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Rick.
Yeah, thanks, Jose. So Supervisor Alcorn and Shamali and others are certainly aware of the accident history at Sunrise Valley eastbound and Hitchcock. And just to make the cheese more binding, as they say, we had another one several weeks ago, destroyed part of a neighbor's fence. I don't have the police details as of yet. I'm not sure if Mark Malcolm was able to get them either. But I'd like to know what, if anything, and I know, Tom, you had mentioned before that this is a Vdot issue, whether you've had a chance to talk to Vdot and what the plans are for Sunrise Valley, because they've taken out all the crash barriers. So now people walking or riding bikes or whatever on that sidewalk are totally unprotected. And if they're going eastbound, of course, the traffic's coming from behind them. So we'd just like to have an update on what conversations may have occurred and what we might expect.
So we actually talked about, Steve and I and others from both FCDOT and VDOT talked about this last Thursday. And we agreed that we would go back into the field and take another look at it. As Steve alluded to, VDOT's been a little bit tied up with multiple snowstorms. And so we're waiting to have an opportunity when that settles down and we can get out in the field and take another look at it. But we have had that internal conversation, and we are planning to come out and get a whole fresh set of eyes on the situation and see what we may be able to do.
I have crash pictures from several of the accidents, and also some testimony from the neighbors who live in that area that I'd be happy to share with VDOT if they'd like to see that as well.
Sure. And to add on to what Tom was saying, yes, we did start having that meeting, and we noticed too that the what are called chevron signs that are like the yellow with a one arrow pointing to give some attention, if you will, to drivers through there are one rather small. Some are not, maybe not, one or two may have been knocked down. So a couple of things we're going to try to do immediately is at least try to jump on getting some more of those out there and replace those. But definitely got to look at the bigger picture of what's happening out there and try to work on that together with FCDOT.
Yeah, Steve, one of the accidents, in fact, probably the worst one, signs aren't seen by distracted drivers. And this woman was eating a bowl of cereal in her lap.
I didn't get that.
Say again? Hello?
We can hear you, Rick.
Oh, so this woman was eating a bowl of cereal. It was in the morning. Kids were waiting for a school bus. This woman never have seen yellow and black signs. So I'm not impressed by VDOT's argument in that regard. We need some physical changes there because one of our neighbors was seriously injured when his car was struck by this woman, and two kids waiting for the school bus were nearly killed. Fortunately, no injuries to them. But this is a serious problem, and signs are not going to solve this, in my humble opinion.
I certainly understand signs aren't going to solve it. It's just one of many incremental traffic tools that we use to try to forewarn people. And frankly, just about anything that you put up can't handle someone that's looking down, eating a bowl of cereal or staring at their phone. Any physical changes in the roadway can't fix that, but certainly there are things out there that we're going to look at that we know may help, which would come with some need for funding, but we don't even know what that is at the moment. We're just getting started at looking at it. So appreciate that feedback though.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate your efforts.
Sure.
So we do have a couple hands. So I see Lynn Brown, Larry Butler, I believe Bruce Wright. I know Howard Springsteen also wanted to make have a comment or question, and Mark Malcolm.
Okay, I want to remind the people that are asking questions to try to, we do have a public comment period that at the end of the meeting, and we want to make it through the agenda. So please make sure it's pertinent to the speaker that, to the VDOT issues instead of a previous speaker. Okay. Jose, did you want to call on the first person?
Yeah, Lynn Brown is unmuted. I didn't know if it
Oh,
was a
okay,
previous
thank you.
hand though. Lynn? Maybe we can get back to Lynn. So Larry Butler was next.
Yeah, thanks, Jose. Hey, Steve. Larry Butler, Restaurant Association. Just a quick question with respect to the salt management strategy that I know VDOT has been a participant in. Can you just give a couple sentence high level summary of what VDOT is doing? We've had a fair number of calls with respect to the impacts on our lakes and streams. So if you could just address that real briefly.
Yeah, I'm not the expert in that, the makeup, if you will, of the brine, but I do know that we have been making adjustments over the past couple, 3 years with the brine usage and the how do I say, percentages of material that's used, the chemicals that are used in it, being sensitive to how things can run off into the storm drains and ultimately into, our wildlife and vegetation. But I have to get back to you and everyone about that. I could perhaps do that with the next meeting.
Okay, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Larry.
Next I had Bruce Wright, but I'm not sure if it was a previous hand or.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Steve. I guess I'll make my annual pitch for the plow drivers not to pile snow at the intersections. And when they do that, it becomes ice and it lasts for much longer than it does if it were not stacked up there. And I know it's difficult. Just hope that guidance is given to the drivers not to do that. And then a question about the 100 Mill Road bridge. Are there provisions for a trail? There is on the countywide comprehensive plan a trail along 100 Mill, and there is a trail on the north side that ends just before the bridge. So do you know about plans for a trail?
Yeah, so I'll take the easy one first, and the trail is that the county pitched in on this project to help provide a trail alongside the bridge. So that will come eventually, but our specific project is to rebuild the bridge and take down parts of the old one. But the trail project, I believe, will come on the heels of that. And Tom, do you have any more details about when?
So the project, there's two trails here. One is the Stream Valley Trail, which the project will connect to, and the other is the parallel trail along 100 Mill Road. And so the Stream Valley Trail was built in because it's already existing. The 100 Mill Road trail, because we don't have the rest of that funded, this trail has been designed, or this bridge project is designed to be able to add the trail without having to redo the whole bridge and all that in the future. So it was taken into account into the design, but it will be part of a larger project when it's funded in the future.
All right, thanks. Appreciate that.
And by just to add on to what Tom's saying, there is what we're doing is we're extending the bridge abutments slightly further than the actual width of the roadway. So the abutments will already be in place to add on the pedestrian crossing eventually. So some of the work's actually getting done for that very purpose.
All right.
So thanks, Tom. And to your question about the snow plowing and plowing of piles near intersections, I have to imagine you're talking more about in subdivisions than anything, although it does occur in other places. That's a real challenge for us. When we get to intersections, you can picture the plow driver trying to maneuver around in 4 legs or 3 legs of an intersection and where to push the snow. They are asked to do 2 things in particular. One, not to plow it on top of or cover up a fire hydrant. And 2, not to plow it onto or cover up a ramp, or a curb ramp, or a sidewalk area But, it's nighttime with a very heavy snow, trying to move a lot of snow. Sometimes they can't see or don't realize where it is. We do give all of our plow drivers get areas. Literally, we give out over 650 different snow plans, one to each contractor. Some may have, if it's a large neighborhood, there might be 2 contractors working in that neighborhood. They're given a plan, they're given instructions. But certainly, if you see something, you can jump onto the myvdot.virginia.gov and let us know, and we can come. We do routinely have teams available to come back out and fix some sort of problem that might have happened during the rush of trying to deal with a heavy snowstorm. So, but we do train our contractor personnel as well as our observers, I'll call them, to look for those things. So appreciate the comment, though.
Well, that's great that they are told to avoid those.
Right.
Yeah, I had a comment that is slipping my mind. So anyway, thank you.
That's okay. Thank you.
So I know Howard had a comment or a question. Howard, are you unmuted?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, just very quickly, difference of time. I just want to give a shout out to Vdot. I think they should push this plow. Vdot plow is great information, and people love to see what the snow plows are, and it just reeks of accountability. So I've been trying to push the town to do it, getting some pushback, but I just think kudos for that link. It's worked very well for the past few years.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate that. There's been a lot of work and effort going into that, and it continues to be updated as to make it even better as we go along. So it's a great, useful tool for both the public, and we use it to monitor where our plows are and where they're not. When we get complaints of, a road hasn't been plowed, we can actually go back in and check where the plows have been in the last 24 hours. So appreciate the feedback. That's good to know.
And Catherine, real quickly, I was going to see if Lynn Brown had her hand up, so I didn't know if she had a question. Lynn?
Apologies, Jose. It's an old hand that I forgot to take down.
No worries. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, thank you. All right, Steve, I think thank you for your presentation. You do an excellent job as usual. And we'll expect you to circle back on the couple of issues that came through. Marcia, are you ready to do your presentation on behalf of MWA? You're muted, Marcia. Marcia, you're muted.
I shouldn't be now. Can you hear me now?
Ah, yes, ma'am.
Oh, good. Good. It's good to see you. It's been a while, and there's been a lot happening since we last met. So I'm looking forward to telling you some of the good stuff. And I can answer questions about the bad stuff too. So, but at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start, even though the presentation, I don't see the presentation on my screen. So, but I will go ahead and try to do my best without it. Since I guess it's been a while. It really has been a while since we've had a chance to update you. And the latest and best information is something I think you all already know, that we have reached substantial completion in both the 2 projects that are part of phase 2. That's the construction of the rail yard and on 90 acres around off of Route 606 behind the airport, and on Capital Rail Constructors construction of the stations, the guideways, the tracks, etc., the heart of the system, basically. Both of those declarations of substantial completion were submitted and approved by us in October, and that opened the door for us to move into what's called ORT, which is operational readiness testing, which really allows us to be doing testing now and demonstrations to prove to WMATA that we are really capable and ready for them to take it over. We still have some, and when we have accomplished that, we will enter what's called ORD, the next phase, and that will be when WMATA actually takes control of the project, but does not, there it is. I'll come back to that, but doesn't actually, it doesn't have any, it's not opening or anything like that. It's just when they will begin doing their own testing. So I'm going to go back and follow the presentation for a little bit. We are in the process of heading toward being able to turn it over. It's requiring an awful lot of cooperation between WMATA, the Airports Authority, and both contractors on the project. Next slide, please. And we can say the end is in sight. Unfortunately, we don't have what the end means to the public is opening, and we don't have a date for that. As I said previously, the project is conducting operational readiness testing, headed toward, and the difference in the testing that's going on now is we're doing the testing to prove to WMATA that we're ready to turn it over to them, and when they can take it over and move into operational readiness testing is still a little bit up in the air. We're hoping within the next several months that will happen. And then during that, at that point, WMATA will take over the line, but will be responsible and will be doing testing of their own where they can be even more satisfied that this is going to be a safe and reliable project. At some point after we move into this chart has been used a lot, but I do not know who on this group may or may not have seen it, and it explains the milestones that we're moving through now that I have been reviewing. If anybody would like this slide, we'll be happy to share it with you. It's a WMATA slide, and it really does outline what they're doing. During the period now, as I've said, we're headed toward operational readiness, and once we do get to that phase, there's no time frame on it. It's ever how long it takes WMATA to complete the testing, and we get all the paperwork submitted, et cetera, and then they can set a revenue date. But at this point in time, WMATA said, excuse me, WMATA told me last week that the best guess on that, or the best estimate on that, would be late spring. And late spring is not specific. But I think if we've learned one thing on this project, it's better to set a time frame than to put out a specific date for something to happen, because we create disappointment and unhappiness when we give a specific date and don't make it. Next slide, please. We get this question all the time. Is my station going to open before the other stations do? But all 6 stations will open at the same time. And I hope that assures people that one area is not going to get service before another. It's a continuous line, and you can't open it without the entire line. Next slide, please. In addition to the testing that's going on these days, we're doing a lot of walkthrough inspections, and we're doing punch list work and completion of lots and lots of paperwork. Paperwork includes turning over all the documentations to WMATA that show specifically what is built in every part of the line. In case issues come up, they would know how to deal with it in the future better. When we do walkthroughs, it's like if you walk through your house, something's going to be out of place or something like that. Anything might see chipped paint or something like that. We walk through, WMATA walks through, the counties walk through, and then if issues arise, we fix them as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. We have had some challenges since recently, especially since Christmas. The COVID impact on available workforces has affected the contractors, the subcontractors, the Airports Authority, and WMATA. When WMATA doesn't have crews to adequately run test trains, we can't test. When we don't have the right forces on hand to inspect and do things, Sadly, we have had, I think for the rail project, we have had seen the effect of COVID more recently than we did last year. The weather also has played heck with testing and working on the rail yard on the line a bit. We have been able to proceed with inside work, but I think VDOT has a bigger job in this than we do for the public impact side right now. One of the new issues that surfaced during the walkthroughs was problems with heat tape. Heat tape is a strip that has electrical wiring heat devices inside it. It's attached to the third rail, and it keeps ice and snow from freezing on the rail. It happened as during a walkthrough. It's not an uncommon problem on existing rail lines, and repairs have to be made frequently because the tapes do wear out. Right now, though, since these have been on, most of these have been in place for about 2 years. And during the walkthrough, there were 16 of 500 locations had problems. The manufacturer is on site doing some root cause analysis work, and we will start repairing it as soon as their reports come in, and that should be in the next week or so. Next slide, please. This is really good news. Not that Paul Wiedefield is retiring is not good news, because he's been great to work with on this project, but he has said to us this week that his top priority before his summer retirement is to get Silver Line Phase 2 up and running. And as I said previously, he does expect that passenger service sometime in late spring. Next slide, please. I'm going to show you some pictures because I think people are, at this point in time, people are more excited to see what the stations are and what's going on along the line than listening to me just chat. This is the Reston Town Center Station. These are our latest pictures. As you can see, there's a very tall building on the opposite side of in the background that is, by the way, a Clark Construction building. Clark is also building the rail line. It's just a coincidence that they're there, but this gives you an idea of what kind of development is already taking place around the station there. Next slide, please. Herndon Station always gives us some of the best pictures because it's easy to get. It's got plenty of places to shoot good photos from. Here you see the interior, which is very similar on the pedestrian access points, very similar to everything you saw in Phase 1. Yeah. Next slide, please. Innovation. Again, it's a completely different looking environment, even though it's exactly the same facility. Both the pavilions are pretty much the same in each one, but this one is very much suited for the area around this station and the nearby development. Next slide, please. This is inside. This is typical of all the stations. You can see the elevator shafts and again going into the stations. Next slide, please. Okay. Do we not have the next slide? Yes. You can take a look here at all the complicated systems. The photo to the left shows you how complex tying all of this is together. If you look really closely at the top picture on the right, on the right, the one that looks like there's two giant white eyes looking at you, we've just tried to decide that looks like a person to me and to Dusty too. Looks like a face, and we've discovered that in lots of pictures that come out on this project. The artistic nature of the design really is exciting to see. Next slide, please. Next slide. I wanted to take a few minutes to give you an update on the rail yard, which is being built by Hensel Phelps. If you look at the yard, this is a drone view, I think. Looking down, you can see the proximity of the rail yard to the runways at Dulles Airport. And the rail yard facility is running a little bit behind on day-to-day getting the interiors up and ready to run because it's so complex. It's the train wash facility. It's the items that can lift the equipment, the actual train cars into the air for maintenance, repairs, washing, etc. It's really an exciting thing to see coming into place. It will create about 300 jobs for the future, and there right after 606. This is the service and inspections building. You can see this picture has little tiny people in it, but next slide. This is what's called the maintenance of way building. You can see the tracks where the trains will come into, and again, just an interior shot.
Marcia, if I could ask you to just move through these slides, we're running late behind.
Yeah, this is the warehouse building, and I'm fine with going fast, but I want you to take a look at that train wash built photo of the previously. You can see the brushes on it. It looks just like you're taking your car through a car wash at your local gas station. Next slide, please. Again. I know we had questions about whether that from this group occasionally about the status of the yard, and so far it'll be there when it needs to be there. And I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
I don't see any hands at the moment.
Okay. All right.
Oh, good. Good. But I'll be happy to answer them, and anybody can call me and ask them to.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. Excellent presentation. It's wonderful to see your face again. You're right, it has been a while. So we're going to go ahead and move on to before we go into the school zone safety issues. I have two comments. One is I did receive a private chat having to do with the police briefing. The person who was planning on making the presentation has an illness in the family, has left town, so we're going to just defer that agenda item until our next meeting, April 27th. So I did want to update you on that. The second issue, so that you have an opportunity to think about it, I am going to call on Howard, and since the town of Vienna is a member of this committee and Reston Association is a member of this committee, I'm going to call on Howard and Larry before we go into the questions, just to see if there's anything they wanted to quickly comment and update us upon. That being said, let's move on into the school zone safety issues.
Catherine?
You have various people who want.
Yeah, exactly. And so I thought I'd step in really quickly, and I know we're short on time, so I'm just going to do a really quick overview for everyone and then ask people to weigh in. We've had 3 different schools in the Hunter Mill district where we've had safety issues. Briefly earlier, you had heard a discussion at Wolf Trap where there was a parent who was hit by a vehicle and injured. At Flint Hill Elementary, there was a grandparent going to pick up a child who was also hit and injured. And then at Mcnair Upper Elementary School, which recently opened, there are about, I think, 1,300 students, it could be a little bit more than that, who walk across, and there's not a safe crossing right now there. So we've had 3 different incidences. So I thought we would bring this up at the Hunter Mill TAC meeting and address what's being done at each location, and see how we're moving on it. So let's start with Wolf Trap Elementary. we have a Safe Routes to School program, which I think Chris Wells had given us the end date was November of 22, that has been initiated and will be in place. But there have been some improvements in that area. I don't know if Steve or Chris Wells would like to speak to either of the improvements. If you're not familiar, I can fill in.
Gee, Chris and Steve, don't jump in at the same time there.
I am not familiar with what recent changes took place at Wolf Trap. So unfortunately.
And I'm sorry, I didn't
Chris,
catch this on the agenda. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we did do the repaving, or that road was repaved, and as part of repaving, we modified the striping to accommodate bike lanes through the wide section and to set up for the future intersection work at the school. And I believe we improved the crosswalk at the next intersection west of there. I'm drawing a blank on the name. So the bike lanes striping has a dual purpose. Not only is it, of course, a bicycle facility, but it narrows the width of the roadway, and that has the effect of slowing traffic. That was an extremely wide section of road there. So when it's unstriped like that, cars have a tendency to drive faster and pass illegally. So the striping hopefully has done has done something to improve driver behavior through there.
Thanks. And Steve, I think that VDOT has a traffic study that's in queue right now for that area. And I know you're looking at, you and I have had a discussion about trying to make the speed limit from the town of Vienna all the way out along Beulah to be a little more consistent, because it kind of goes up and down quite a bit, making it confusing for drivers and people around the community.
Yes,
So I don't know if you
I've
want to
talked
speak
to
to that.
traffic engineering about that and expressed the desire to try to keep that corridor one consistent lower speed, if you will. It's portions that are 25, maybe 30, 35, then back down to 30. And it does kind of play on people's minds as they drive as to, well, what is the speed limit? And I think in these more high urban, high pedestrian school areas, what have you, as Chris was stating there too, we have some areas that through time over the past 4 or 5 decades, developments have come in. Potentially at one time, maybe a comp plan showed that a road was supposed to be wider, so a segment got built wider on Beulah, for example. But then it didn't happen, things changed, but yet the widened area of roadway is that way. So it does kind of give people that physical thinking that they can drive faster. And I think we're all trying to do better at trying to look at that. And so, yeah, that study stretch coming out of Vienna northwestward all the way up, I've asked them to look at it holistically, if you will. So
Great, thank you. I think there was one hand up here.
Hi, yeah, it was Jeff that had the question. So it was a little unclear to me. Since that incident, it sounded like there were improvements made after the incident, but I couldn't tell from what Chris described. Those were in place prior to.
So there was one improvement that was made, because even though the road had been repaved and the striping had been redone, the center area for that turn lane area that's going to come into place was not hashed out, and that has been, I believe that's the one that's been hashed out, but it has been repainted in that area to make it a little bit clearer, and it does, hopefully, it adds the narrowing of the road feeling in there a little bit better before the full, I think there's going to be an island there, isn't there?
Yeah,
The median. Yeah.
Okay, so
So
they refreshed or updated the painting. And was there any, I know there was a, slow down, you're going too fast trailer there for a while. Was there any other law enforcement effort to look at traffic there?
I think we've lost our law enforcement officer to double check, but they had been notified and had been checking for speeders along that area. As we've noted, the speed limit goes up and down fairly quickly throughout that zone. But they did issue some tickets along the road in different spots. So other than that, I have asked them to periodically set up that trailer in that area to remind people to slow down. And there was some coordination that was to be done. The officer who is doing it has been reassigned to a different area, but to provide some traffic cones to whoever is assisting with crossing in that zone. And I don't know if that transfer has happened yet, Jeff, but I will double check on that.
Yeah, so that would be the Miss Edie, I guess.
I can also, this is Steve Welsh from Vdot. I can also add that in any some of these locations, and I believe Flint Hill and Wolf Trap both have what Fairfax County Public Schools develops and permits to put in the school zone speed limit flashing beacons at both ends on the approaches. And those things are timed to lower the speed to 25 during the school rush hours. But Fairfax County Public Schools funds and designs and construction maintains those. And that's important to understand because they maintain them because they set the timings for when they're supposed to work to coincide with the rush hours at their schools, which change between elementary, mid, and high schools, and also turned off during holiday when other events aren't going on. But I know both of those lower the speed limit during the rush hour at 25, but still that doesn't, that doesn't stop people from doing their thing. But I have witnessed Fairfax County Police occasionally sitting in certain spots during a school zone and have stopped, done a good job at pulling people over and making themselves aware that routine drivers had better be careful. But hopefully it'll get even better as time goes on.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the Wolf Trap location?
There's another hand from Allison.
Allison, yeah, great.
Hey, this is Allison Brahman. Thanks so much, Steve and Ms. Health, for addressing those things. I wanted to follow on to what Jeff asked. Our flashing beacons are working that are from Fairfax County Public Schools and Vdot. There was some discussion of putting up traffic stanchions in that crosswalk on Beulah Road from FCPS, and I thought maybe Vdot was installing those. I wanted to just check on follow-up. I saw some little tiny painted circles around that area where the island will be at that crosswalk on Beulah Road, thinking maybe those traffic stanchions, those flexible things that stand up would be installed sometime. And I just wondered if there was any status on that. Since I think it's VDOT, I'm not sure who.
I think it's actually Chris, maybe Chris Wells. Chris, is that a project that SCDOT is actually doing for the crossings? If he's there now. I'm just not personally familiar with what improvements are now planned to happen in addition to what's already been done. Chris?
Yeah, our project is a concrete project. I did the field walk with Supervisor Alcorn and Shamali at Flint Hill, but Lauren Del Mar of my team did the field walks at Upper Mcnair and Wolf Trap. So I'm actually texting her right now to asking about the flexi posts, but I don't know myself what was.
So that would be a temporary. Would that assuming
as
that
an interim?
Yeah, between now and November kind of thing. So, Chris, if you would just get back to me on that, and I'll include that in my notes out.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Steve, for looking into keep that speed limit, bringing that down that area. I thank you all very much.
Yeah, and Lauren did just respond that she thought VDOT was doing flexi post there as an interim.
Thanks.
I will circle back with our group to find out what we're doing, what you all are doing. We'll touch base. Thanks, Chris.
Shamley, I think Bruce may have a comment or
Yeah,
question.
quick question, more or less directed at Tom. What's the status of speed cameras in school zones? And if this isn't the appropriate time, maybe it could be addressed later.
Bruce, let me jump in. I think Tom had to drop off, but that's actually more on my side. We are bringing this to the board's transportation committee. I'm going to talk to Tom later this afternoon about the agenda for next month's meeting and March's meeting. So, Bruce, it's either going to be at the February meeting or the March meeting of the board's transportation committee. But you know, as you know, Arlington, and I think maybe Alexandria, has moved forward with that authority already, and we're going to be talking about doing the same.
That's great. Yeah, I know we've had the authority. Hopefully they can come up with a policy and get it implemented. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Anything else on Wolf Trap?
I'm not sure if Jeff Anderson had a follow-up question, so I unmuted him.
I did not, but since we're talking about schools, I just wanted to raise to Supervisor Alcorn's attention. I'm going to put my FAB hat on. That FAB has been lobbying both the school board and some members of the Board of Supervisors to support the in the school budget or Fairfax County's budget, the position of the Safe Routes to School Coordinator. That position ends come June 1 or July 1 this year. There was one final grant of a small amount to get her through this school year. This grant's been funded since 2015 to the tune of over $500,000. That Vdot, thank you Vdot for supporting that. The school system, I think, has put in about for 3 years about 20% of that. So I think that runs to less than $60,000. I have been talking to Supervisor Stork, and I know he was going to raise it, Supervisor Alcorn. It was brought up by 4 members of the school board during their budget meeting last week, and I know we're right in the middle of this. I know Supervisor Stork was going to go back to FCDOT and see how they can fund it. So I really would like your support, Supervisor Alcorn, to get this position funded. It's a key position. It's not only educational, it's infrastructure. As you can tell, there's still a lot of issues around getting kids to safely walk and bike to school. I can send you the one.
Yeah, you don't have to convince me. I support it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the TAC as well, the County TAC, Transportation Advisory Commission.
Yeah.
Actually,
So do you need anything from us? I can send you a 1-pager that we put together.
I think we may already have it, Shamley. Don't we? I know we have the TAC letter, but
We have a letter. We have a letter from TAC. So if you have something separate from FAB, you can go ahead and send that forward. That would be fine.
And I am going to be talking with Melanie Marin actually, I think later this afternoon.
Yeah, please do. I'll be honest. She's a Wolf Trap parent that I know from my days there. Unclear to me her support. I think she supports it in general, but I don't know if she supports it by putting into the budget.
Okay.
To be blunt, I know she has another meeting tonight that I'm going to attend and ask her the same. So I'll get that 1-pager over to you.
That sounds great.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Supervisor.
And that's a great general comment, because we do have a couple of other schools that we have some real critical issues at. I think I'll move to the Mcnair Upper Elementary School. At that crossing, we've had it's a new school, and I know Steve has been out and out to that school, so you've kind of seen what's happened there. There was one development since the time when we all went out. There had been paint striping on that road. However, there was apparently some issue with the final completion, and so that area through FCPS's projects was repaved directly in front of the school. As of now, because of the weather, there is no paint striping back down in that area other than some temporary little lane marker kind of things in the area. So the issue there is there's not a crosswalk directly in front of the school. The closest one is a fair distance away. especially considering the number of students who come to the school and cross. And the road there is quite wide. So there's, I mean, it's what, about 8 lanes wide. I don't know, 6 lanes wide. It's a very wide road right there. We have added a couple things. So earlier, before December, the police department provided crossing guard assistance and had a cruiser there for that period. Now a permanent crossing guard has been trained and I think put in place there. So there is a crossing guard at the crosswalk that is south of the school. But that's, again, it's about, I don't know, a good half a block away from the school. So it's not terribly convenient to the park, to all the apartments and townhomes that are to the north of the school. Is there any update on anything for that area, Steve or Chris?
From my standpoint, I have talked with, emailed some suggestions, and I've been in a lot of back and forth the last 2 weeks with our traffic engineering department to see what could be done. I stood out there with Supervisor Alcorn and the principal one morning rush back in, I believe it was late October, Supervisor Alcorn, and I was there half hour prior to the school rush even starting. And I agree, there students, that school is placed such that where it should be a good thing for students to walk to school. It's dead center in a very large residential community. But I would not want my children walking. If I had school-age children, I would not want them walking anywhere except for the crosswalk that's further down south. Unfortunately, it's not the path of least resistance. In front of the school, there's a major convergence area. And I think, like you said already, Shamali, at this location, there are, despite the roadway being road dieted, and for everyone's understanding, it's taking a 4-lane road and turning it into a 2-lane road. Despite it being a 2-lane road, it also has very wide travel lanes. The parking lanes on both sides are twice in width probably than what they should be. I witnessed numerous citizens parking their cars parallel parked in those next to the legally parked cars, leave their car, walk across the roadway, escort their child while the principal with her bullhorn was yelling out to not do that. I have worked on a couple, I'm not the traffic engineer, but I've sketched up a couple things and sent them to our traffic engineering group and asked them to look at them. We've been having some back and forth. There's some discussions that are going to happen with Fairfax County Public Schools Safety and with Fairfax County DOT. And again, I'd like to see some interim improvement of some sort, with a bigger picture being the grand picture would be if this road, when the day it gets repaved or someday when it gets repaved, in my view, should be a great candidate for doing a multitude of things such as curb bump outs that shorten the distance of crossings, narrow the lanes so that it gives that physical appearance of slowing down cars. The speed limit of this entire length or segment of road from Sunrise Valley down to Frying Pan is already 25 miles per hour. Unfortunately, a school zone speed limit or flashing beacons cannot be put in by Fairfax County Public Schools. They've already told the principal that because I asked her, because the speed limit, the purpose of that is to take an area that has a 30 or 35 mile per hour roadway and during the rush, drop it to 25. It's already 25, but people are going through there at 35 and 40. Supervisor Alcorn, I'm sure we witnessed it together. And so, yeah, I very strongly believe there needs to be some interim and plans for longer term improvements at this location. So I'm there with you 100% and doing what I can with our traffic engineering group to make that happen.
Yeah, and let me add from Fairfax County's point of view, Lauren was part of that field review. That crosswalk is, the existing crosswalk is only 100 feet or so from the school, but there's obviously two directions of people trying to get from the school. There's the folks coming from the northwest aren't going to want to walk past the school to a crosswalk and cross back. The outcome of that discussion, though, was that to have a new crosswalk there would need to be a funded capital project. We'd need to, it's not just the paint, it's the curb ramps, it's how to do that. And I will say that at school entrances, that can be a challenge with the turning volumes of the buses and everything. We work closely with schools and VDOT to really determine what the best solution is. And then there's the crossing guard, which is a Fairfax County Police issue. And so all of those entities have to work together to determine what the best crossing location is along a school, because we definitely want the students to cross with the aid of the crossing guard. We don't want to add a crosswalk that might be easier for the people from the northwest, but then they don't have a crossing guard. So then schools and the police typically don't have the budget to have two crossing guards. It's better to consolidate all that activity at one location. So that was there's no near-term action items that I believe at the moment. It's really more of an ongoing discussion about if we fund a project to move that crosswalk, how do we do it correctly with the needs of schools and the police crossing guard.
Yeah, and Chris, let me jump in. There were a couple of different meetings there. Chris, I think you heard more about the first meeting. The second meeting that I met with Steve and also the principal. And I think out of that meeting, there was some, and Steve, thank you for taking the initiative to sketch out some possible solutions. It's quite possible, I think, depending upon where the turns need to go and all that, that there could be one central crosswalk there for the crossing guard in the future. And I know that's one of the things. I appreciate you bringing that up, Chris, about multiple crossing guards and the challenges with that. But on the funding side, I've got my eye on it, and definitely, we just added $5 million extra to projects like this in our mid-year budget. We're going to be adding more probably later this year, and I've definitely got my eye on where we can get funding sources. So, Steve, thanks for taking the initiative, and because it's a bad situation. Anyway, it's scary.
Totally agree.
So thank you, Steve, and thank you, Chris.
Any other questions on Mcnair? I realize that we're really behind, and so I just want to give a little update just in case anybody is listening to this later on for Flint Hill. We have requested the area to be restriped because the paint is a little bit worn out, and that is weather dependent. VDOT has it on their list, and we'll get that done. Also, the school speed zone sign that was off kilter has been requested to be straightened. It should actually be straightened by now. That was something that was put in, and JJ from on the FCPS side took care of that. So I just wanted to give those two updates. And then the third thing was we had a brief discussion of extending the time for the police officer who is there as a crossing. And that is not feasible per their contract, is to help students across, not parents across. And so yeah, I think there's an issue there. We may need to figure out a different solution there. That was just something that had been suggested, but I did receive word back on that. So I wanted to pass those on. Are there any questions about either Flint Hill or anything else, or can we move on to, is Steve Knudsen still on? I don't see his thing, but maybe I'm missing it.
Yes, I'm here, Shmali.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's right. You're me. You're doubling.
I am you.
Okay.
That's the mini-me. Is the mini-me ready for the presentation this morning?
Are we ready to go?
Yes, please.
Jose, I did have some slides if Jose can put those up. I think he has them. So my name is Steve Knutson. Good morning to everybody. I work for Fairfax County's Department of Transportation in the traffic engineering section, and I manage the residential traffic administration program, which is commonly referred to as RTAP. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide, Jose. So RTAP consists of 5 residential traffic programs that are used by communities throughout the county to address traffic concerns on their neighborhood streets. And they include the traffic calming program, which kind of addresses speeding, cut through mitigation, which can be used to address excessive non-local traffic on local streets, the $200 additional fine signs, which is also used to address speeding, watch for children signs, which is a warning sign to alert drivers that children might be present. And then we also have the through truck restriction program, which is used to address excessive non-local truck traffic. So if we can go to the next slide, Jose. This slide here just shows some typical applications that we can use through the 5 different programs. On the left-hand side are the regulatory signage that we use for a typical through truck restriction. Below that is the warning sign for the watch for children. On the right-hand side, the additional $200 additional fine is a placard that goes underneath the posted speed limit. And then also we show there a time of day turn restriction, which can be used through the cut-through program. And then we also have like our standard speed hump installation there in the middle, which is from our traffic calming program. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide, Jose. And then all 5 of these programs are community initiated. They start with a request from the community to the supervisor's office. They forward the request to SCDOT. We will then review all the requests to make sure that the candidate road meets the standard qualifiers of road type and posted speed. And if they do, then we, for like the traffic calming program, we'll collect data, see if we can identify a speeding program. If we do, we meet with the community task force, come up with a plan, present that plan to the community at large. There's a ballot process that the proposed mitigation needs to pass. If it does, then it goes to the Board of Supervisors for their endorsement. Once we get their endorsement, we send it to DPW for the installation of the requested devices. The cut-through mitigation program is a little bit more step heavy, and it does require more involvement from VDOT, and the requirements are, pretty high. We need to see 150 cut-through trips in a single hour in one direction. And if that is met, then we kind of meet with the community and VDOT, come up with what mitigation might work for the particular problem. Show that mitigation to the community. They will then ballot on it. There will be a public hearing. Then we have a board endorsement, which sends a resolution to VDOT requesting the installation. They send it to the Commonwealth Transportation Board for their review and hopefully at some point their installation. The $200 fine sign's a little bit easier. It's just a request from the community. We get that request, collect some data, see if we can identify a speeding concern. If we do, then we ask that the supervisor's office reaffirm the request. Once we get that affirmation, then we go to the board for their endorsement, send off the resolution to VDOT for their installation of that regulatory signage. The watch for children signs is a request to the supervisor's office. We receive that request, go out, see if we can identify locations where the sign would be appropriate to be put in place. Once we've done that, we confirm or reaffirm that request, send it to the board, and then we do that installation internally through a sign contractor. And then the through truck restriction, once again, is a request from the community. The main things that we have to do at this point are identify a reasonable alternate route for the displaced truck traffic and make sure that the police can do enforcement. If we can do those 2 things, then we take it to the board for a public hearing. After the public hearing, then a resolution is sent to VDOT. VDOT has, a certain amount of time to fulfill this. It goes to the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and they review whatever data and study VDOT has done to determine the concerns and reasonable alternate routes. And if the Commonwealth Transportation Board feels that the request is viable, then they go ahead and install that restriction. We can go ahead and go to the next slide, Jose. So for Hunter Mill right now, we do have 4 ongoing traffic calming programs. There are various stages. We have one cut-through mitigation program that's currently on hold. Basically, it's on hold because of the reduction in volume of traffic during COVID. We really have not seen a true bounce back on those volumes yet. And while we are seeing this reduction in traffic, we are kind of going through the cut through program and seeing if we can. VDOT made some changes at state level. We're trying to reflect those changes and streamline the program a little bit. So hopefully that will help that program become a little bit easier for communities to go through. And then we do have 3 different $200 additional fine sign programs or projects going on at various stages. And then we have 2 Watch for Children sign requests that are scheduled to go before the board in February. So that's basically what I have. We can go to the next slide. So if anybody does have any questions or concerns, they can reach out to me at fairfaxcounty.gov, and I will try to respond. So that is basically the RTAP programs and how they are navigated by communities and the current status of the programs or projects in the Hunter Mill District.
Madam Chair, if I could just add one thing, and thank you, Steve, very much for that very thorough and concise presentation. The one thing that we are going to be looking at the board's Transportation Committee is the process, particularly for traffic calming. The community voting process has become pretty challenging. It's also the subject of some pretty specific VDOT guidance right now. So that is something we are going to be looking at as one of the currently part of the process that could be evolving. But just so everybody knows, that's one piece of this that is at least under discussion at the board level.
Okay, thank you. Jose, do we have are there some hands up? Because I think there may be.
Yes, we do. We have Bruce Wright and I believe Mike McDermott. Bruce?
Yeah, thanks. Steve, maybe this more is a question for VDOT, and maybe not the right folks are here, but that request for Ridge Heights was sent. I mean, our HOA sent it a long time ago to the supervisor's office. In September, it was sent to VDOT. It looks like. Any status on when those signs might go up, maybe before the end of the school year?
I know that we sent the resolution to VDOT at the end of 2021. I know VDOT was having some issues fulfilling some of the requests for signage just because of, I think they were having problems getting material.
Yeah, this is Steve Welch from VDOT. We are having supply chain issues. Our sign manufacturer is located in the center of central Virginia, and they forewarned us back about 3 or 4 months ago that they were having problems getting aluminum and certain other materials necessary for the manufacturing of signs. So we caution everybody that once we have the ability to order a sign, it may take up to 3 months before we can even receive the manufactured sign and then schedule to have it installed. So I would say this spring sometime, if it was late 2021, we should be able to have those signs installed this spring sometime.
All right, thanks. That's that's good to know. Another one of the supply chain problems.
So Catherine, we have Mike McDermott, and I got something through the chat from Rick Hamilton as well.
Okay. Mike?
Thank you very much. I was going to ask Steve who the best person was to talk to about simplifying the traffic calming process, because we've received several comments about that, but Supervisor Alcorn has said that he's already taken a look at that. So let me ask the supervisor, do you have a time frame when you'll be looking at that so we can monitor it closer?
Yeah, it's either going to be on this February 15th Board Transportation Committee meeting, or in March. I'm going to be talking with Tom Bashadny actually late this afternoon about exactly that. I think we're going to get it on, Shamli, I think we're going to be able to get it on February. So yes, but Mike, we can let you know.
Okay, excellent, because that'd be wonderful to be able to monitor that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks.
And you had something from the chat. Did you want to read it?
It was Rick Hamilton. I think he just wanted to make a comment or a question. Rick?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, just very quickly, Supervisor Alcorn, I'm not sure what the extent of that conversation you described would be, but one of our frustrations in Polo Fields with the speed hump issue was one person can totally stop the process of having a speed hump if they don't want it next to their house. Any chance that that can be revisited? Because Coltsbrook only has one speed hump because one neighbor said, forget it.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. I think we can look at that as well, because there's sort of a continuum, I guess, of different measures that can be taken, and there probably should be a continuum of the hurdles that have to be crossed in order to get those put in place. I tend to be a little bit more on the side of well, frankly, I mean, if it's something that goes to the Board of Supervisors and supported with community input and with adequate notice, then I'm inclined to basically let the board take responsibility for that on many of these measures, and not have sort of the situation that you described.
Thanks.
But that's something we got to talk about as a board too.
So, Jose, were there any other hands up, because we need to?
No, those are the hands that I saw. If I miss them.
Okay. Per the agenda, we have questions and discussion next. We only have a few minutes though, and I think we've had a lot of input from the public, thanks to all of you that have been engaged. I wanted to, because the town of Vienna and Reston Association are standing members of this committee, so I'd sent chats to both Howard and Larry to see if either of them wanted to make a comment. Howard, do you have anything that we need to know? Town of Vienna? Oh, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, a couple of things. We're having the bicycle bingo, bicycle rodeo May 14th in Vienna. I think we're sponsoring it, and we should hopefully get a big turnout. That's Saturday, May 14th. The town is building a whole bunch of sidewalks on streets that don't have sidewalks. They have curb and gutter, but they have no sidewalks. We had a very generous bequeath from the Maud Robinson, and we're just doing a boatload of sidewalks. I'm just reading my list here. We're doing a lot of water and sewer pipes replacement, so a lot of the streets are being dug up. The new police station is going along, it's on budget, on schedule, so that's pretty good. It'll be a very impressive facility. On Monday at the council meeting, we're doing a joint project with the county for the library that will pick up 80 more parking spaces, which will be a big help. We're still doing the design, but Walter Alcorn was very helpful there. And just very small, we had a bridge that goes from the Freeman store over to the bicycle trail. We finally got that approved after bidding out 3 times at an incredible cost, so that we should have a bridge, a handicap equipped bridge that you can go from the bicycle store to the Freeman store. So I think that is all I have.
Okay, thank you. Larry, you're still on the call, correct? Did you have anything on behalf of Reston Association?
I do, yeah, real quick. First, I want to thank Walter and Tom for authorizing and getting the funding for the non-TSA intersection study as kind of a follow-on to the network analysis. That's something that Director Mooney had been working on very diligently, so we're pleased to see that get started. We provided comments on the scope last week. The Fairway Drive and Ring Road bike share stations. It was a long delay, but I sent yesterday to Tom, Walter, and Chris and Shanley some alternative potential locations that are on RA property to get those out of the actual roadway. So I look forward to continuing that discussion and seeing how we might be able to integrate the traffic calming that Steve Knudsen was talking about with Fairway with some of the objectives we have. And then just a couple other things. On March 10th, MTAC will be hosting a town hall, sort of a transportation town hall. Just an open forum for the first part of our meeting. And I think that one will focus on trails before people really start hitting them again after the winter. And then one of the things on the MTAC work plan for 2022, which we think is going to get approved tomorrow night at the board meeting, is they're going to be doing a Silver Line Station walkway connections kind of inventory. In other words, what needs to take place for the Silver Line stations to connect to the greater Reston Trail network. So that's something they'll be undertaking this year. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you, Larry. So I know that we have time for questions and discussion. I was going through the participation list, and I think most of you participated. Is there anyone that had a burning need to speak before we close? Because
yes.
we do. The Supervisor Alcorn wants to have a couple of minutes with us. So.
Yeah, Catherine, I know Rick Hamilton just sent me something to chat. He wants to make a quick comment.
Okay.
Rick?
Yeah, just kudos and thanks to Larry Butler and Karen Anton from Reston Association for painting stop signs on our trails that cross Thunder Chase and Colts Brook. We really, really appreciate that. Thanks.
Oh, we always like positive comments. Thank you.
That's all I see, Catherine.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So one comment I wanted to make, I know that Walter wanted to talk about the committee process, from the standpoint of participation and standing membership. That's why I wanted to remind us that we do have Town of Vienna and Reston Association. I'm not sure we currently have somebody from Safe Routes to Schools. I think Jeff has been handling that, but I'm not sure that he's the appointment. And then we have, I guess we didn't call it FAB at the time, but we have the biking community on. So Walter, did you want to speak to I know you had some thoughts on the committee structure.
Yeah, and I know we're about out of time, but certainly I think there have been some very active groups in this committee, and it's probably time to look to see perhaps we should add a couple more permanent members. So, Madam Chair, why don't we just suggest that if folks have thoughts on that, or want to volunteer, then to let my office know, let you know. Shamli, is there anything else you wanted to add on that at this point?
No, I don't think so. I think Catherine laid out some of the folks that we've had on here, but we want to kind of formalize having. I think several years ago there were quite a few regular members on from different communities that could help formulate what the agenda would be for the meetings and passed on to Catherine from their perspective. So I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Walter, I'm going to quickly before we leave, are there any other groups? Because usually we have around the room to make announcements about any meetings, or like Howard just told us about the bike thing that will occur before our next meeting in April. Is there anything else we need to know?
I don't have anything else at this point. Shamli, you want to flag any other groups?
I just wanted to flag that the bike event that is starting on that May 14th is the Tour de 100 Mile, second one. this year it is starting and ending in Vienna. So Vienna's playing a major role in that, but you will see it will be launching the website shortly on that. We have a planning committee. If anyone is interested in getting involved in that, it's open to the public, and we'd love to have additional help on it. Several of working team members are on here now, but this is our second one. So looking forward to it on May 14th.
And I got a gravel bike for my birthday, so I'm in.
Oh, that's
So everybody
exciting.
know.
Now, Howard's waving. Are you waving your hand, Howard, to participate here?
Yeah,
Oh, now you've
Now
unmuted.
you're muted.
No, we still can't hear you.
how's that better?
Aha.
The bicycle thing was in May. You thought it was in April. We have a meeting in April, so we do have, it's in May.
May 14th,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Did I misspeak? All right, any other meetings that we need to know about? Walter, I'll let you close the meeting with, we are showing April 27th as our next scheduled meeting.
All right, let's do that. And if others have ideas on how this could be more effective in any way, let us know. But this is a super, super helpful process. Thank you, Catherine, for leading this. And thank you for everybody who's participated.
Certainly. All right, any other comments? It's just a couple minutes after 10. We did a pretty good job of wrapping up almost on time. Thanks to all the presenters today. You all do such. One thing about this format is I think it works very effectively for the presentations because we can see them well on our little laptops or whatever we're doing. But thank you for the professionalism and the preparation and the thoughtfulness on behalf of our community. It is sometimes you may not feel appreciated, but you are appreciated. All right.
Catherine, I think Larry Butler has a physical hand, or he's just waving.
Oh, Larry, I see Larry's hand up. Go ahead, go for it, Larry.
Yeah, no, just, is it possible to get the Chris Wells' report emailed out?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I can send that out.
That's a really handy thing for our multimodal transportation committee.
Yeah, I think when I'm sending it out in the invitations to everyone, I am including the current projects list, but I will make sure I send out what his report was this time.
Okay, appreciate it.
Actually, if you can send out all the presentations that were made today that haven't been presented yet to us as individuals, that would be good. All right.
I can do all. I think the one from Marcia was quite a large file, so I'll see how I can get that to send it. We had some challenges with that.
Well, if you need to, you can always scan it and send it as a document too. That might.
I can try to send you.
Maybe it won't make it smaller. Okay, thanks to everyone. We'll see, if we don't see you at a meeting soon, we will see you on April 27th.
Thank you.